Garfiel and Ram's really complicated love affair once every few weeks or once every few months. Ram would go to the Cremaldi sanctuary. She was basically Roswell's attendant, so she rarely got to visit it of her own accord. For starters, she had barely any free time in the first place, as a servant working at the mansion. And even if she was given time, Ram would spend it for either Roswell or her beloved little sister. Thus, Ram felt like this extremely exceptional situation was a result of a natural decision, too, Garfiel. But still, it was a rare occasion, said a boy with golden short hair from behind her, in a good mood with his arms crossed. He had sharp eyes and a mouth that had fangs sticking out, as well as a conspicuous white scar on his forehead. Parts of his face were somewhat ferocious, but you could feel a charm from his smile. That's what Ram felt. However, he was way out of her tastes, and the crude clothes he wore on his supple body were tacky. He was downright the opposite of Ram's tastes in every way possible. But in regard to that fact, this boy, Garfiel, why do I need TB close TIer tastes? Even if you'd fall for me if I change himself from who I am, it's not happenin'. I don't want to see you change yourself from who you are either, you know. It was a surprising reply, so Ram didn't think to try and say anything at that moment. Following that logic, Ram wouldn't have affection for him. She wouldn't have that thing a man and a woman had, since it would mean him changing himself from who he was. It was something that seemed to be understandable, and yet, Ram. Well, that foolish side of you is what makes Garfiel. Quit that praisin' me so much's gonna make me blush. Rubbing the bottom of his nose with his finger, the boy, Garfiel, looked embarrassed from Ram's sarcasm. It made Ram increasingly dumbfounded, and she let out a quiet, slight sigh. For better or worse, he was positive. However, she didn't assess it as worse. Garfiel, so why'd you come air without that bastard Roswell? Ain't this first time? Ram, don't make the mistake of thinking that I came to see you, Garf. I have someone going with me this time, too. If it's not for Master Roswell, then there can only be one other reason for me to go. Garfiel, which basically means that. Garfiel, who had been intensely curious, crinkled up his nose in reaction to Ram's cold reply. Understanding the intention of Ram's remark, he roughly and violently scratched at his head. And then he opened his mouth wide to try and say something. Garfiel. Ram, truth is that in this season, deep in Forest Guaga. Garfiel was rapidly blown off to the side in the middle of speaking. Another person appeared in Garfiel's place, who had instantly vanished from sight. It was a lovely girl who shook her short blue hair, dressed in the same uniform as Ram. Smiling like an angel at Ram, she said, Rem, sister, thanks for waiting. It looks like I correctly remembered the place Miss Luz told me about. It seems this is the season when you can see the white snow sakura. Ram, oh, thank goodness. I knew Rem was looking forward to it. I was planning on thinking of how to make them bloom if they actually hadn't. Rem, haha, that makes me happy, but it's okay. I was told the general location, so let's get going before it gets dark. It'll be really fun. Garfiel, it'll be really fun, you're forgettin' 'bout somethin', oi. A voice filled with suppressed anger interrupted the words that came from a slightly smiling girl with her chest filled with hope. It interrupted the words of Ram's little sister, Rem. It was Garfiel's voice. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, he looked up at Rem in displeasure while noisily grinding his sharp fangs. Then, having been stared at by that look, Rem looked down on Garfiel sitting cross-legged, and she said, Rem. Ah, so Garfiel was there. Sorry, you're so small I didn't see you. Garfiel, that's how you're gonna greet me after it's been such a long time since we seen 'chother. Don't you get too full o' yourself now. Besides, I grew taller since last time I seen you. Look closely. Rem, I was able to find you because I looked closely. If I didn't look closely, I wouldn't have seen you because I only have eyes for sister. That was close. Garfiel, you blew me away, you know. The hell are you, Peter Piper? Note not showing up. We'll fix this when I get home. Basically, Rem says sort of a tongue twister, and Garfiel says one of his phrases that's related to that. Standing up and raising his voice, Garfiel dealt with Rem in a very cold way as she smiled. Their interactions were always like this lately, although back then they wouldn't be like this. It seemed that Rem didn't like Garfiel, who had affection for her sister. As you could see, everything about her behavior indicated that. When she looked at Rem being like that, Ram felt all kinds of, from the bottom of her heart. Ram, it makes me feel truly loved by Rem, so I don't dislike it. Ram felt bad for Garfiel, but feeling truly treasured by her little sister that she treasured more than half of her body gave her essential daily power. The quarrel between her childhood friend and her sister made the passion inside Ram grow even more, and she had no idea. Rem, sister. Apparently flowers called white snow sakura bloom in Sanctuary this season. The time Rem said that was when she was talking with her about how to spend the sudden day off. About a maid's duties, they basically had no day offs. It was a day job, but Roswell would give the employees day offs erratically. Although Ram felt like she was unworthy, obediently accepting the master's care was an employee's duty. The sisters Ram and Rem were the ones to raise this time's white flag. So she puzzled over how she'd spend that day off, but that's when Rem brought up her proposal. She had no objections to enjoy the blooming, rare flowers at Sanctuary if it was what Rem wanted. Rem was a girl who didn't really ask for anything selfish. But in comparison to Rem had a wide variety of hobbies, and she was susceptible to secretly enjoying things such as poetry and art appreciation. That was probably linked to her interest in the beautiful scenery. It was cute. That's why her big sister Heart wanted to grant as many of her little sister's wishes as she could. And so Ram went with Rem to Sanctuary, made a promise with Luz, the land's representative, and arranged plans for the famous white snow sakura place that she heard about. Then next she would spend her day off enjoying the white snow sakura peacefully with Rem. That's what she planned. Ram, it's an outrageous wish now that Garf's found out. Garfiel, MTH, one who'll be helpin' you with TH, white snow sakura in TH first place. What's wrong with me guiding you? Rem, well, I didn't want you to find out. Your face would get ruined if the flowers fell onto your head when you look at them, Garf. The three of them have that conversation while walking in the forest that was feared as the Lost Forest. They were walking side by side with Ram in the middle, Garfiel on the right, and Rem on the left. Rem walked arm in arm with Ram to show off to Garfiel, and he left out a cynical sigh at the end. Actually, the remark just now that was mixed with a sigh wasn't even cynical. It seemed to simply be his real intention. Garfiel, you really got no mercy for me. You get a CTH, flowers 'cause of me. Don't you think you should be thanking me, huh, Rem? I can't stop feeling anxious about how someone sloppy like Garfiel would help. The white snow sakura I heard about from rumors. I wonder if they really are spotless flowers like the rumors say. Garfiel, you always got a damn comeback. Rem made a straight face at Garfiel, who trembled all over. Ram kinda felt like there was something pleasant about that interaction. Even Rem, someone who usually had something that made her tense, felt at ease talking with Garfiel, who she knew for a long time. Those were the only times when Rem would also let herself get spoiled by Ram, acting her age, and it would fill her big sister heart. But there was still Ram inside Rem's heart, and her attitude towards Garfiel was based on only that. And so she still needed something else, even if it meant more different changes were needed for Rem to truly be Rem. Rem, sister, what's wrong? You haven't been saying anything. Garfiel, not feelin' well, should I carry ya? If you need water, there's a place pretty close by. Suddenly, the two of them look into her face, and Ram returns back to reality, having been in deep thought. Rem and Garfiel put aside their interaction that happened just before, and they worried about Ram like a team. Their kindness makes her smile unintentionally, and she shook her head. Ram, no, it's nothing. It's just that Rem and Garfiel's conversation was really funny. To be exact, Rem was so cute and Garfiel was so pitiful. When she replied in her usual manner, the two of them were relieved. It was a remark that teased Garfiel in particular, and yet she felt like they shouldn't be relieved. If they were too kind, she'd feel bad. She'd feel bad for none other than Garfiel himself. Garfiel, oh, it's 'bout that time. Make sure you're prepared to have your socks knocked off. Garfiel the guide said that immediately after he pulled himself together. True to its name, the Lost Forest of Cremaldi had a strange, special characteristic of obscuring the sense of direction for those that entered it. Therefore, even with Ram, the path up until this point wasn't really accurate. They were able to walk around confidently because Garfiel was familiar with the path. Rem. I'm looking forward to it, of course, but Garf does exaggerate things. Rem responds to Garfiel's introduction by murmuring while her eyes had slight glimmers of hope. The girl who surprisingly couldn't hide her emotions well was cute. In any case, Ram was also happy that it sounded fun. No matter what kind of scenery would show up there, up until this point Ram had, she gets interrupted by Garfiel spreading his arms in front of her. She follows that gesture and looks at what was ahead. Ram lost her voice, eyes squinted. There was a pure white illusionary space that suddenly appeared inside the green forest. White snow sakura. Just like the name implied, the lined-up trees all had white flowers and leaves that looked like they were covered in snow, and they all stood still calmly in the forest. The scenery was pure white. The scene even made them feel a gentle sort of warmth, despite it not being odd for the color white to give off a cold impression. Rem, WOW. The scene makes Rem speechless too at her side. It was clear that she was trembling because the scene she hoped for was even more beautiful than she expected. Garfiel was also pleased with the state of the sisters. But this was the only time the boy didn't even act condescending, even though he was prideful. Rem, I brought a bento, but is it really okay to eat here? The excessive magnificence of the scenery makes Rem a little nervous, who brought a bag. However, the one to thank for this beautiful sight, Garfiel, quickly moved towards the center of the white snow sakura. Garfiel, if you wanna eat, let's eat air. I feel like I'm on the top of TH world right now. Rem, HMPH, fine. I'll admit my defeat for the sake of Garf's achievement, just for today. Rem pouts with strange rivalry at Garfiel, who was triumphant. And then Ram fell one step behind of Rem and him, who were spreading out the bento in the middle of the scene. She was a little surprised by the fact that she was capable of getting overwhelmed by scenery. Ram, seems I still have a lot more to learn. Rem and Garfiel beckon Ram, who murmured so quietly that she couldn't be heard. At that moment, Ram put back on her usual expression, and she walked up to them in a calm manner. Rem, sister, it's not that easy to hold onto this, but here. Ram, thanks. If it's something Rem made, then it shouldn't be that, it's a steamed potato. Rem, unfortunately it's not steamed, but... She held it out to her apologetically, but it was Ram's most favorite dish, so she was shocked. Once she looked at Rem, she was showing a gentle expression simply because she had huge success with her aim. It felt like she wasn't in the palm of just Garfiel's hand, but Rem's too. Ram, it doesn't feel so nom. Bad, but nom. She was having an experience that wasn't very easy to come by. She was surrounded by her favorite food, the steamed potato, and such picturesque scenery. It felt like she was enjoying a day off, which was something she wasn't really interested in, and that was weird. That's when Ram thought about that. Ram, Garf. Suddenly, she felt weight falling on her shoulders, and she turned towards it. Garfiel had his head on Ram's shoulder, and he was sleeping somewhat soundly. He unintentionally started napping. Ram wasn't so merciless to push him aside, but as a childhood friend, she felt it was rare for Garfiel to nap in front of people Rem. It looks like Garf also did his best because he wanted to show this scenery to sister. Ram, that's how it is. Rem, you were Garf's accomplice. Rem, I had no reason to object since he said that he wanted to make sister happy after all. Rem simply smiled with pleasure at Ram, who realized that she got tricked. Come to think of it, it was convenient. The white snow that only bloomed in this season, the day off that happened at the same time, and Garfiel's guidance. Ram, did Master Roswal know? Rem. Surprisingly, it seems Garf made the request to Master Roswal. Ram, oh, he really is an utter fool. Ram took a side glance at the boy who had his head on her shoulder, and she let out a sigh in astonishment. Afterwards, she moves his body just a little, and she moved Garfiel's head somewhere else. She moved it to her lap. Rem, oh, sister. Ram, I have tons of compassion and kindness, so I guess I'll show my thanks. Ram looks down at the boy's sleeping face, and she runs her finger through his short, blonde hair. Her fingertips come across the white scar on his forehead, and the color of affection was mixed in her eyes. Rem, sister, I didn't say that you should do that much. Ram, It doesn't mean anything special. Besides, even I'll let my guard down for however much Garf does for me. I just won't go any further than that. Such a fool. You could even call them rare flowers. She knew how difficult the troubles he went through were to make them bloom. How should she respond to so much devotion? Ram. Such a fool. Once more, Ram murmurs inaudible words to her sleeping childhood friend. After that, she notices the situation of her little sister in front of her. Rem had a bit of a sulky look. Rem, sister, can you? Ram, what's up? Rem, I feel kinda jealous of Garf. I want to be spoiled by sister too. Ram, good point. I want to thank Rem a lot more than Garf. Here. Garfiel. Buga! Rem made a cute request, and Garfiel let out cries of pain as he got thrown onto the ground. Having jumped back at his feet, feeling dizzy, Garfiel looks at Rem, who had her head on Ram's lap, and he raised his voice again, but Ram. It feels like I'm truly loved, so it's not so bad. With that concluding interaction, Ram whispered that with a slight smile while enjoying the day off.